Hi, it's Chris Lewitt, top American junior coach and coach to many #1 juniors in the United States. On this video, I want to talk to you about 4 keys to effortless power on the serve. And I'm also going to share with you some technique and biomechanics along the way. So come join me. Okay, so I'm here with Sophia, who's one of my students, and she's going to help demonstrate some of these serve power tips. And I will also demonstrate myself. I played Division I college tennis at Cornell, and I played on the low-level pro circuit. And Sophia is one of the top-ranked juniors in New England. And she's 10 years old. So you'll get a good look at some different stages of the service technique. Okay, so power key number 1 is the back leg loading. The literature shows, research shows that there's a strong correlation between the explosivity of the back leg, the back hip. So the speed that the back hip rises is directly correlated to maximum service speed. So the best servers in the world, and some of this research comes from Mark Kovacs, who's a leading sports scientist. Basically, the best servers in the world, the ones with the fastest velocity, have the fastest upward hip drive. And you can measure the speed of the hip rising. And that comes from the explosion in the back leg. So you always want to start from the ground up when you're building a powerful serve, and you want to explode from the legs. And most people jump off their front leg. It's very common. You'll see players who load, and if you look at me now, if you look down at my legs, it looks like I'm kind of loaded off both legs, but I'm really not. 90% of my weight is actually on my front. So that's an optical illusion that you have to watch out for. And it's very common for players to jump off the front leg. You see a lot of players loading and exploding off one leg. Just try doing a single leg squat, and you'll realize how difficult it is to explode off of one leg. So you want to use both legs to explode. And the typical ratio that's recommended by research scientists and by coaches alike is about 60% back leg, 40% front leg. So when you go into your loading, whether you do a pinpoint stance or you do a platform stance, you want to have a significant, you want to send force into the ground on the back leg, the right leg, and explode using 60% of the back leg. That ratio changes as you start to go up to the ball. So in the power position, when you're loaded, we like to say about 60-40. Everyone's a little different. But as you start to transfer that energy up and out, the ratio sort of shifts to the front leg. So there is a shift that happens. But in general, a good rule of thumb is to remember 60-40. Okay, so we're talking about the power keys and the back leg loading. Try to give you some actionable exercises that can help you if you like to get out there on the court and work on this, or if you're a coach and you want to work on this with your players. But one of the simple ones that you can do is just toss and load. So you can toss the ball up, go through your motion, and accentuate that back leg loading. But do it for real, with the real toss. Toss it up, accentuate the back leg. Try to get 60%, 70% on this back leg. As you're going down on that back leg, typically the left hip will push forward over the threshold of the baseline. So that's another checkpoint that you can look for. As you're loading, it's not like a direct squat straight down. You're going down and also sliding this hip slightly forward, but you don't want to over-exaggerate that. And you don't want to lean in as you're doing that. You want to dig deep into the ground off that back leg. You tilt your shoulders, and you sit down at that back leg, and that's going to be where you get a lot of explosion on the serve. It's interesting that the back leg is not directly responsible for the power of the serve, but the back leg is critical in initiating the kinetic chain, which leads to the upper body mechanics that leads to the big power. Sophia, are you ready to try? All right, so let's do that first exercise where you just do a toss. You don't have to hit it. You just go for the toss, and then sit down on that back leg and try to be at like 60% back leg, 40% front. Everybody jumps off their front leg, but most people don't use their back leg. It's particularly common if you have a pinpoint or a step up. So if you slide your foot up that is extremely common, that players with a pinpoint don't use their back leg. They jump a lot of their front leg. Some coaches will switch players to a platform stance, which is where your feet don't move, just to try to get more back leg loading. So if you do have a pinpoint, do you have a pinpoint? You do, you slide your foot up. If you do slide your foot up, you gotta pay extra special attention to loading that back leg. So you bring your foot up and then you gotta dig down deep. If you look at this configuration here, this is very common. Right now, about 95% of my weight is on my front leg. It may not look like it, but as soon as you see the toe like this and the heel up, there's gonna be no drive or push from this back leg, even though it looks like I'm kind of bent and I'm gonna do something. So make sure when you bring that foot up, if you have a pinpoint, you dig down deep and you load 60-40. All right, try that with the toss. Nice, you can bump that hip out just a little bit. So when you go to do it, go ahead, toss it up. You can bump that hip a little bit. That's perfect. You don't have to exaggerate too much. You want to have a little space in your knees. So you don't want your legs tucked together. Have a little space in your knees. Try it again, like a tennis ball width here. Go ahead. That's awesome. Are you loading this leg? You're pushing into the ground and you can explode out of there? All right, nice. Okay, another good, quick, actionable drill that you can do to incorporate the back leg loading is a drill from Mark Kovacs, who's got some amazing exercises for developing the power and the serve. And this one is very simple. You reach down and you grab a ball that's resting on the ground. You load the right side of your body, including the right leg, and then you explode and throw the ball out. Sophia's going to demonstrate that. And if you can do that exercise by also keeping this left arm up as you reach down, it really mimics the movement of the serve, and it will help you develop that back leg loading and that explosion that's so critical and correlates to racket speed and power. Want to try that? All right, here we go. Nice. Make sure as you're doing that exercise, you're loading and then throwing the ball up high and not throwing the ball straight, because that's what happens in the serve motion. You throw it up. You throw the racket up. Nice, good job. If you see on the last one, you're getting this, Sophia's getting this great loading here. This is exactly what you want. Try to tilt the shoulders, load the back leg. Tilt the shoulders, load the back leg. This is a classic exercise from Mark Kovacs. And nice. Great job. Okay, so this last quick exercise to help develop the back leg loading is another drill from Mark Kovacs, who is one of the leading sports scientists in the world. And Mark loves this drill, and it's become quite popular, where you load your back leg. You do almost like a single leg squat. You get into your power position and you serve from that position. So you're basically doing a serve exploding off one leg. And so it's focused on the back leg loading. Very popular drill that you see nowadays at many different academies. And I think it's a good one, especially if you have a dominant front leg loading issue. Then this is a very good exercise to develop that back leg loading and exploding. But it is difficult, especially for young kids, or if you're not an advanced level player. It is quite challenging, so give yourself some time to work through it, but it is a high quality exercise. Want to try it? This is a tough one. You load off of one leg, you lift your left foot up, then you jump onto your left foot. Okay, the second power key is to get the timing of the entry of your racket drop synchronized to your leg drive. And this comes from the research of Dr. Brian Gordon, who I have a lot of respect for. He is a leading biomechanist, and he used to be a teaching pro, and he went back to school to develop a PhD and to become an expert in biomechanics. And so Dr. Brian Gordon, I think, is brilliant. And one of his main thrusts is that you don't want to drop the racket too soon behind your back, behind your neck, and then jump. You want to use your legs to force the racket downward to create a stretch shortening cycle in the shoulder and to give yourself that enhanced optimal racket speed during the acceleration phase going up to the ball. So essentially, you got to get the timing right between when this racket goes down and the leg drive. Most people, 95% of the kids and adults that I see, they enter and they drop the racket way early and then they jump. The idea is to use the legs, start to jump, and then chase the legs with the racket drop. So that timing is super hard to get. Most people struggle with that, and it's one of the real keys to developing power on the serve. So you want to get the correct timing of the entry of your back scratch, basically, the racket drop. So I will show you a few exercises to help with that. Okay, so we were talking about how most people are too early when they drop the racket and then they accelerate. And the idea is to use the legs to actually help push and drive the racket down further to develop more optimized racket speed. So what I tell to my students is I say hesitate and then accelerate. So it's a little rhyme that's easy to remember. You try to hesitate in your power position. People have different power positions. Some people have power position like this, like a Ben Shelton. You know, some people have a power position like this, like Alcaraz. This is more classic. You know, so there's a lot of different ways. You know, you have some guys are like this. Some guys have kind of the cobra setup. There's a lot of different ways to set up the racket in the power position or before you get into the drop. But no matter what way you choose to do it, you don't want this racket to come down in here before the legs fire. You want the legs firing before the racket goes down behind your back. So that's the critical thing. So I want you to try to hesitate. You can do your normal motion and try to come up, hesitate, and then accelerate. See if you can work on that slow down here. One of the things you can do is just try to think about maybe slow legs and then fast. So as you're coming up here, you want to think legs. Don't think shoulder, arm. Think you can go slow, explosion with the legs, and then fast. You know, not just slow, fast with the arm, slow, and then the legs have to initiate the next sequence, the next acceleration part of the arm, or the acceleration part of the arm. Yeah, you can hit it, but try to be slow in the beginning and come to here, and then when you get to here, don't think more shoulder, think legs, then shoulder. It's kind of like the legs are sandwiched in there, the explosion from the legs. Legs. Good job. Good hesitation. Another one. Just think about that timing. Slow here. Almost like a pause here. I'll show you that in a minute, like a little drill for that. Almost like a pause here, and then don't do that. Do legs first and then that. You know. Slow legs. Good try. This is very difficult, especially for your age. At 10 years old, it's very rare to have a good entry, a good timing of that entry, but you work on it and you try to get it better. Slow, hesitate, accelerate. All right, nice job. Okay, so the other thing you can do to develop that timing, this is very tricky, but you can just start here, and this is very common. Dr. Brian Gordon loves this drill. He calls this probation. You put a kid or a player in probation here, and you just want to kind of hold that position, and you just pause there. No, don't do that. Just stay there, keep it there. Toss, legs first, and then the entry. So you got to be here, and if you have someone helping you, if you're a coach, you can adjust. You can stay here with your hand or with your racket, or you can use a tube, and you're just going to toss up, hesitate, and then just like that. That was good. That's what you want to work on. So this is a drill that I kind of stole from Dr. Brian Gordon, but you know, the best coaches steal drills, and this is a good one. If you're struggling with that entry, if you're working on this on your own, you're going to have to use video. You're going to have to film yourself. You have to use your camera and check at the slow motion to see if you're going down here before the legs drive. You want the legs to start driving and then the entry of the racket. All right, let's do it. Are you ready? Oh, okay. Good job, Sophia. One more. You're gonna stay here, hesitate, legs, stay here. See, what usually happens is players will toss and then this will immediately go and the racket gets parked behind the neck or on the back. You never want to do that. Just you want to hold, legs. Okay. And that will give you maximum power. All right, nice job. Okay, it's not easy, you did great. Okay, for the third power pro tip, how to get effortless power. This one is relatively simple, although the biomechanics are a bit more complex, but essentially, we were talking about having this loaded position and having the shoulders tilted in the back leg, loading and exploding. And what that does for the kinetic chain is it creates this shoulder over shoulder rotation. And that is a forward rotation if you think of kind of like a somersault. This is all based on research, scientific research on advanced tennis players who serves. But basically, there's a very well-known pioneer biomechanist. His name is Bruce Elliott from Australia. And Bruce Elliott was one of the first researchers to describe shoulder over shoulder rotation on the serve. It's like a somersault of the shoulders. So basically the right shoulder, in the beginning when you're in that loaded position, left shoulder's up, right shoulder's down. And then when you accelerate upward, the left shoulder comes down and the right shoulder goes up. And that rotation is very powerful. It adds a lot of power to the serve. Most people don't have that very much at all. Most people have flat shoulders and they just sort of go forward like this. The shoulder over the shoulder movement is a key contributor for power. And one of the keys to getting a fast shoulder over shoulder movement is what we talked about in the second tip, is where you want to drive with your back leg and you want to get that acceleration of the back hip going upwards. So it's a little complex biomechanics, but I find it very interesting. The key for you guys to know is that if you don't toss in front, you're not going to get a good shoulder over shoulder and you're not going to get a good power from that rotation, that forward rotation of the shoulders. So I want you to try to get the toss way out in front, a foot, 2 feet into the court, and that will help you get a better shoulder over shoulder. Combine that with the second thing we're working on, which is the back leg loading and exploding, and I think you'll max out your power. What most people do is they toss the ball kind of above them here. Maybe the toss doesn't even get over the threshold of the baseline, and then they get sort of caught and they don't get the maximum rotational force into the serve. So shoulder over shoulder, combine that with the toss in front, and you'll get a great impact point in front and you'll get maximum transfer of energy. That's really key. All right, ready? So you don't want to toss, for example, here, which is really, oh, you just served. You don't want to toss here. That's going to limit your shoulder over shoulder, and that impact point will reduce your power. You want to get the toss a foot or two into the court. You know, it depends on your size, obviously. You're a little smaller. If you're an adult, you maybe toss a little more. Like for me, I'm 6'3", and I'm an adult, and my toss is pretty far into the court. My toss is at least probably 2 feet into the court on a power serve. And so that's very important for the transfer of energy, you know. All right, so let's try to get that. Let's try one. Let's see where your toss lands. All right, so that's a great example actually of what not to do. You toss it up and the ball came down and it came down where you were. You want the toss to come down in another neighborhood, in another zip code. So you're in this neighborhood and your toss goes to that neighborhood, and then you try to explode up into that ball, and that will give you max power. That's a great way to get max power. You can optimize your power that way. All right, ready? Yeah, much better. Much better. You could probably even toss another couple inches forward and try to use your leg drive and your explosion to chase the ball. Try to get as high a contact point as you can, and by tossing more in front, it will help get the better shoulder over shoulder movement for power. Hey guys, thank you for joining me on this discussion of the pro tips maximize power on the serve, to give you more effortless power on the serve. There's really no such thing as effortless, because all serves require muscular contraction and force and effort. But if you hit the kinetic chain right, you hit your checkpoints right, you can have a serve that looks more effortless. It looks effortless, and that's what you really want. But you're always going to have to put in some work to get a powerful serve. I tried to give you some actionable drills and some important technical aspects of the serve. Tried to share with you some biomechanics based on the literature as well, for those of you who are into that kind of thing. But in the end, these simple exercises will help you get optimal power on your serve. Guys, I hope you enjoyed this video. Let me know if you have any technical questions or any kind of comments. Leave them in the comment section and I answer those personally. Please like the video, please share with your friends, and please subscribe to help us grow our channel.